Hello, and welcome back to the Ask the Color Expert podcast. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Mr. John DiJulius. He is a salon owner. He's celebrating 30 years, a multiple location salon owner. He has 5 amazing books that every salon professional should have, and he just shared with me he is writing number 6. Welcome, John, to the podcast.
Thank you, Elaine. It's so great to be back.
Thank you so much. So John and I talked 4 years ago. The world was a lot different then, right? But you shared so many great nuggets. Your specialty, and I know you're more than this, you're many things, but what attracted me to you in the very first place many, many years ago was Secret Service. I think that was the first book. And I've read it probably 5 times, and everything in there is still relevant today as it was when I first picked up the book. I think that it's such a great topic for us to get into today, because I think that customer service, and I don't know if we can blame it on the pandemic or just life in general, but I've seen a huge decline in customer service across the board, not just the salon industry, restaurants, hotels. You know, we have a beautiful property here called the Don Cesar in St. Pete Beach. It's this big pink palace, and you know, I heard about it for years. I couldn't wait to visit it. And I that's where I walk on the beach every day. And every time I walk up, there's trash overflowing in the trash can. People aren't in their uniform. They're acting unprofessional on the grounds of the hotel. Like, there's just so many negatives. And I think a reasonable sale, you know, weeknight there is probably $800-900 a night. And I'm like, how is this adding up? The bad service and the high prices. And you and I both know in the salon industry, we have to have both on point to be successful. So how do you feel about the current state of customer service?
Well, you bring up all good points. And you know, when I open a speech, you know, the first thing I actually say, you know, I'll have a slide that says recession and with a question mark. And, you know, everyone wants to know, are we headed into a recession? Are we already into a recession? And I say, I'm here to tell you, we've been in a recession for 3 years now, and a customer service recession. And since the start of the pandemic, overall customer satisfaction in every industry, measured by the American Customer Satisfaction Index, has been dropping like, you know, the Titanic. And it is currently today, again, across all industries at a over 2 decades low. And so why? You know, first, what came out of the pandemic was, you know, the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, you know, inflation, supply chain issues, you know, staff shortages, employee burnout, you know, and again, I'm speaking generally, but this also applied, you know, to the salon industry, you know, and so overall, everywhere we go, prices are up, and the experience is down, right? We're charging more for less. And you know, my salons are even guilty of that. We worked so hard, you know, since the pandemic of getting the employees to come back and making sure we're doing these things to make their environment, you know, better and at the cost of, you know, the experience. And then on top of that, I mean, there's so many different things going on. You have shrinkflation. I don't know if you've heard or your audience has heard of shrinkflation, but shrinkflation is a shady way of disguising price increases. So, you know, the example is if you like Doritos or Gatorade or Crest toothpaste or, you know, any of these grocery store products, what they've done is you actually get 6 less chips in your Dorito bag.
Don't mess with my Doritos, John. That is my kryptonite. It's funny that you went right for Doritos, because I am known as the Dorito girl.
Okay, but here's the thing. You know, you didn't realize, and none of us did, most of us didn't, that your Dorito bag is smaller. So there's less. The Gatorade used to be 32 ounces and now it's 28, but the price hasn't changed. So, you know, and that might translate itself to, you know, going out to eat where the entrees are smaller. That translates to the, you know, the salon industry where, you know, maybe you think you're getting an hour massage or a 90-minute massage or facial, and you're only getting a 50 or 80-minute. So it's just a disguise. And then another thing that's popular now is tipflation, and you've seen it, all your listeners have seen it. Everywhere you go now, they're either building in the tip or like crazy things like, to-go orders. They're asking you to, since when do we tip, cashiers, when,
Yes.
when we're, and so like all these things are really pissing off the consumer, right? And the salons used to be the escape from all this. And if we're not positioning ourselves to be the escape, right, to allow it for you to get away from the chaos of your life, to get away from the bullshit, right, of stupid stuff and how other people may be taking advantage of you, and we are contributing it, we're no longer an affordable luxury. I might as well, the customer might as well find the cheapest if you're not, going to give me. And something else, that I love, I'm always a big proponent of making price irrelevant, right? And so it's funny. So let me first go to Starbucks. We work with Starbucks. They're a consulting client of ours. And it probably still happens, but 10, 15 years ago when we started, we'd find that the baristas would feel guilty about selling you a $5 cup of coffee back then. Now it's $6, $7, right? And why? Because, that was 50, 60% of an hour's worth of work for them, right? They would never spend that much money on a cup of coffee. So one of the things we want to help Starbucks do is teach the barista, you're not selling a cup of coffee, right? You're selling the third place. You're selling a customization of Elaine's order, which might be like 16 different things on it, the way Elaine wants it. All those things. You're selling a living room that Elaine can just unwind, read a book, clean up emails, or conduct an interview. So now you go to the salons and, a lot of our hairdressers, couldn't believe, and Cleveland is not, a big city. So the average a haircut in Cleveland for a woman is like $32. It's not New York, It's not Las Vegas, right? But our least expensive is $50. And then we have, more than a dozen hairdressers that are $100 to $150. My point is, a young 22, 24-year-old hairdresser, has never spent $75 on a haircut. And then she feels guilty, or, that she, you're going to get mad. That you're her client today, who's a professional in their 40s, right, is going to get mad. And then when we've had guests complain, right, about the haircut, a knee-jerk reaction for the hairdressers because we're charging too much, right? If I shouldn't be charging 75. And so, we find these examples and we show them. And we had one example. We've had a lot of these examples, but the one I'm going to share with you is like some client went to a level 1 hairdresser at the time. This is 20 some years ago. And that level 1 hairdresser was like charging $35 for a haircut. That was our level 1. She didn't like it. Complained. Our salon coordinator said, you don't have to pay, and gave her a gift card to come back the next time with like a level 7 hairdresser who was like charging $70, right? Comes back, tries a level 7, loves it. 22 years later, she's still going to Heather, but today Heather charges $150. Okay. So the whole point is she felt ripped off at 35 and she feels Heather at 150 today is a bargain. So it wasn't the price, right? It's not because she's cheap and she's not willing to pay it. It's because at that point, the experience didn't warrant that price, whether it was 35, 50 or 150. So
absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think, you probably don't spend as much time as I unfortunately do on Facebook forums, because I'm constantly trying to look at what's going on, taking the pulse of what's needed from an education standpoint. And there's this whole rally of, girl, charge your worth, don't you dare discount, and make sure that you charge, $1,000 for that service. And people are throwing all these prices around, but there's never a mention of the experience,
right,
and the value of the experience. It's just about the hair. And I'll see a photo, they'll put the clients before and they'll put the clients after, and they'll have the inspo pic. and they'll be bitching about this client. And the picture at the end looks nothing like the
You
photo
can't
they
tell which
did.
is the before or after.
Exactly. But yet they charged the $1,000 because they're worth it. And I'm like, there's something to that. I just got off the phone with, a 40-year salon veteran who's a dear friend, and she's upset because her client is upset that she's not going to remind her about her appointments anymore. And she was like, this woman's a grown woman. Why do I have to remind her? And I'm like, it's just about the customer service. It's nothing personal. She just wants that elevated experience. So I think that.
And what she's going to have, if she's stopped that, she's going to have a lot of no-shows, not out of punishment, but out of, oh shit, I had an appointment today. And that happens to me where, oh my God, I had a call with Elaine and I completely forgot, or, that's easy to fix, call. But, if I was supposed to see you and I didn't, on my calendar, I get a 15-minute reminder. Right. If you're across town, that ain't going to help me too much.
It's not enough. Yeah.
Right.
I said exactly what you said. I said, what is more annoying to you right now? Doing that little reminder or missing the income when she doesn't show? It's totally up to you. You have to check in with yourself on what's the bigger inconvenience, because we as a salon, anytime we have a new onboarded stylist, the first thing that they don't want to do is confirm. And any day that it's skipped, we 100% always have a no-show that day. It's just people have gotten used to having that,
There's
service.
An expensive automation tax, that'll pay for itself. One no-show or a month will pay for whatever that automation that sends you. I actually want to increase so I think we do a 3-day reminder that, hey, Elaine, confirming, don't use the word remind, confirming your, haircut on Tuesday, whatever that may look like. I want it a week out, 2 days out, in the morning of, right? Like, because that'll reduce no-shows. That'll, get you to either call the salon and say, oh my God, I have to reschedule, or you'll be there.
Absolutely. And now that we're talking about technology, what are your thoughts on all this AI technology? I'm like loving and terrified at the same time with its capabilities. I see so many jobs being, affected by it. Thank God ChatGPT can't give a haircut or color service yet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, John, you asked me when we got on here, you're not going to make me formulate, are you? It's a color podcast. I won't make you formulate, but if you go into ChatGPT right now and ask it a question, if you phrase it correctly, it does a pretty damn good job of giving you the exact instructions.
And give it 6 months and it will be better than, some of the top colorists in the world, which is a good thing, right? It's a good thing to have that as a backup to confirm if you're on the right track. I love it. And trust me, my last book, The Relationship Economy, was all about how we balance the digital with still the human. But it's transparency. My whole thing, in the salons and any our businesses is I want our call center, which we call our relationship center, to get less calls, right? Still be available, but like me, myself, I don't want to call. I don't want to go back and forth in email. Let me have access to your app or your thing and book online. And, I need a haircut next week, or I need an appointment at Apple. And, here's boom, that works perfect. Now, when I go in, I need the human interaction. That doesn't mean if I have a question, complication, especially with color. Yeah, I might need to speak to someone because I'm not sure if I need highlights, color, both, all those low lights, yada, yada, yada. So you still have that. But for general, I don't want to be calling someone, be on hold and go through this. Yeah, I could book an appointment at most places if I'm aware of what I want. And it's the same thing I got the last time, in less than 90 seconds. That's awesome for me from an efficiency standpoint. So I think we have to merge both because we have to be ease of doing business and then have the human interaction, which is good for salons, to reduce payroll on non-revenue producing positions, not eliminate it, reduce it, which is important to be in a healthy, profitable salon with some oxygen.
Absolutely. I'm spoiled. I'm a night owl. So I like to be able to make a dinner reservation for, 4 days from now at midnight on an app versus calling a restaurant, because, you always end up calling at like 1:00 for a dinner reservation, and there's
it doesn't matter today. Like we've been talking about, they're understaffed. They don't have someone answering the phones anymore. It's ringing and ringing. And Javier answers a phone, who's the chef or dishwasher who doesn't speak English, right? and no offense, but that's, that's, oh my God, that sounds so painful, versus let me go to Open Table or your website. Boom. Got it. Next Tuesday at 6 p.m. for 4.
And I got so many great nuggets from all of your Secret Service, especially by attending the Nemacolin event. You talk about, using a different color cape when it's a new client. You talk about addressing the client by their name, making them feel welcome and special. And that's what I love about Open Table, that I can make a reservation on Open Table for one of my children for their birthday, and I don't have to try to get the waiter to the side and whisper about a secret dessert. I can put it right in the notes.
Right.
Celebrating a special occasion, please bring dessert with a can. It's just, there's so much good from technology, and there's still a huge segment, especially in the hair industry. And most of my audience is closer to my age. So they've been at it for 35 plus years. All of this technology is very overwhelming to them, and they're trying to fight it. And it's like, don't fight it. Just ease into it. Grab a teenager. They were born with an iPhone attached to their palm.
Right.
I mean, my son just gave me a big hug last night. He said, God, you've really come far. You couldn't even, turn your computer on a few years ago. Like, I would call him when I was doing videos for my online course. And I'd be like, I don't know what I pushed, but I can't see myself. How do I get back on the camera? And he was like, he's in college. He's like, Mom, I showed you a million times.
Right.
And now I'm like, helping.
And the thing that our generation has to understand is technology is very intuitive these days. And it's not like it was 20 years ago when you had to be a geek, right? To understand it. It's if you play with it long enough and swipe left or swipe right, you're going to find your video back and unmute yourself. I mean, it's all there. We just, get so scared. I think it's, you got to marry the digital with, the personal.
So I heard you recently talk about something called Bounce. I love your little Instagram reels, and I get little snippets of John and that injection of inspiration. So tell me about Bounce.
Yeah, so I like to tell my employees, in the salon business, we have to sell the bounce, and if you sell the bounce, you will make price irrelevant. You will become the brand, the service provider that clients, guests, customers can't live without. And what the bounce means is, we all, it really ties to self-esteem, right? It's a bounce in our step, right? And there are days, of the year, moments, weeks, we have the bounce. Maybe we're getting some good runs in. Maybe we're working out and we've, tried to give up, whatever, carbs, whatever it is, or we come back from Florida. You're living in Florida, but we come back from Florida and we're tanner and we feel good. We have the bounce, right? And it's kind of an organic bounce where, I want to bump into people, right? And they're like, "Oh, John, did you do something different?" I'm like, no, I just rolled out of bed. This is where, but you feel it, right? You have the swag. And then there's times we all have it, the anti-bounce. Right? We're not feeling it. We've put on 5-10 pounds from the holidays or whatever vacation. We're pasty white. We just don't feel it. And, those days we might put a hat and sunglasses on and hope we don't bump into anyone. Right. So as hairdressers, and front desk and anyone, we have the opportunity to put a bounce in everyone we come in contact with. Right. Emotionally, physically, psychologically. Right. So from a colorist or a hairdresser, your technicians have the ability to make you look, you're 10, the client, the 10. right? And give them what they need physically, but also emotionally, right? By talking about Ford, right? Family, occupation, recreation, talking about Elaine, not me, the hairdresser, not telling Elaine I got hammered last night and the newest thing in my love life and, all the stupid gossip, focusing on Elaine and focusing on Elaine's, what's important to Elaine and making it about Elaine. And then, she gets up and 3 other people say, man, I love the way you look. I love those highlights. Man, it looks great with your eyes, blah, blah, blah. And you check out. Now Elaine has the bounce in her step. So there's an old myth that people that are more successful have higher self-esteem. That's wrong. It's the opposite. People with higher self-esteem are more successful, right? So Suzanne, let's say, who you crushed it with her today, and you put the bounce in her step, and she's feeling good, and everyone on your team made her feel like $1 million, a 10 in every way. Wherever she's going from here today, she maybe has a sales call with a client, a new client, a potential client. She, has an interview with a potential job, her dream job, or she has a first date tonight. Whatever that looks like, is she more likely to crush it after leaving you and your location with the bounce? And that's what we do. And people jones for that because they're not getting it most places, right? That from here or before she went to the dry cleaner or the dentist or this. And, hey, can you look up? Can you check me in? Can you guys stop talking? All those. And so I always say, we want to be the Disney hangover, right? And the Disney hangover is the best thing about going to Disney is when you're at Disney. The worst thing is the 72 hours after you leave Disney because every experience sucks, right? And you're mad. However, those are the same experiences you had before you went to Disney, and they didn't piss you off as much. That's the way it is. So take it to my world. I want to have the John Roberts Spa hangover, meaning if you're the dry cleaner, if you're like, oh, shoot, they just came from John Roberts. They're going to expect us to be nice, right? And so put the bounce, sell the bounce, teach yourself and your employees to put the bounce in people's step. Technically, you got to crush it. But emotionally, psychologically, got to crush it.
I love that because I often think the first client and the last client of the day sometimes get the crap out of the stick.
Right.
Because the beginning, you're not quite awake yet. You're like reaching for the coffee, you're dragging a little bit. And then at the end of the night, I know for me, there was no makeup left. I never reapplied my lipstick. My breath probably smelled awful because I was living on coffee fumes and no food and all of the things. And I'm like, I almost look back and say, I wish my steady 7 o'clock client could become my 12 o'clock just wants to experience my energy level earlier in the day. So each
that's
person has a different
right?
version.
Elaine, if generally speaking, for all our service providers listening, watching, is you better be given that 7 p.m., the same experience you gave the 9, 10, 11, unless you're willing to give me a discount at 7 p.m., right? If you're going to cheat me on the experience, your energy, your positivity, all that, all right, good. Then tell me if I book, 6 or 7 o'clock, I get 25% off. We don't want to do that. And that 7 o'clock deserves the same experience at noon, 1, 2, whatever gets. And, that's really important. And so, we can tie this to sports. Some of the greatest athletes, Kobe, I just saw this on TikTok the other day. He never took a day off. He played the fourth quarter like he played and they'd say, why? Like, why? And they said, because there was someone, right, who's never seen me play, that may have flew here, drove, they may have saved up. They asked their parents to, get tickets to see. And what if I took the night off? I played, but I didn't give my best effort. I cheated that fan. I look at it as the same thing. I look at it as the same thing as a speech, right? This is my 4th speech this week. I'm tired, right? I've been on planes every night. If I mail that in, what did I just do? That client on Friday is paying the same keynote fee that the client on Monday or Tuesday paid, right? That audience has never seen me before. right? I can't give them a less, of an experience or whatever I bring in my speech just because I'm tired. I got to bring my A game, whatever that looks like.
Well, you still have your A game going. You're still as passionate and amazing as the first day that I met you.
Thank you.
When you look back,
that was a long time ago, Elaine.
It was
how many
a very
years?
long time ago.
Plus 20, no?
I was going to say over 20.
Yeah.
Especially the Nemacolin, but what a great experience. Amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure your definition of success has changed a lot over the years. As being a 30-year salon owner and owning a very successful consulting company and consulting to companies like Starbucks and, all of the people that you consult with, you constantly are on your A game. You're always at your best.
Thank you.
And striving to be better. But in looking back, and I know you have a really great relationship with your boys, what would you share with them is what you now see as your vision of true success?
My personal statement that is right here in front of me, that is on my mirror, it's on my visor in my car, so I'm advertising, is to live an extraordinary life so countless other people do. Okay, live an extraordinary life so countless other people do. It's not live an extraordinary life so I have a bigger bank account, more vacations, more houses, more cars, all that. But if I phone it in, if I cheat, if we all have seeds of potential, right? And if the seeds that we don't fulfill, cheat my boys, cheat my 150 employees, cheat all the clients that are all these people who are dependent on me to. If I live an extraordinary life, the ripple effect, now they're more likely to live an extraordinary life. So I don't look at it as an option. I look at it as a responsibility, and that, if I eat like crap, too often, I don't get workouts in. If I'm not educating myself to, be better at my craft or better as a human being, I just cheated all those people that gave up other jobs because they believed in, my vision and did that. All the people in my life that, I'd be cheating. So that's the way I look at it, as it's an obligation. And I don't want to cheat those who are dependent on me.
I love that. Now I'm going to wrap up with a line that I got from you and put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What was your high today and what was your low today?
Being on this podcast, I don't. No, that's true. If I speak a lot, every week or every year, and I never count. People ask me how many. I just never count. I kind of don't want to. I'm afraid, but let's say it's more than 100 speeches a year. Probably less than 2 are in the beauty industry anymore, right? I miss the beauty industry
you miss the crazy of us.
The energy. You'll never come close to the energy, the soul that hairdressers have. People are shocked to find out that I was a hairdresser, for a short time, but 20, 30 years ago. And there's magic in that, and what we could do in that. There's not many people that can give the bounce. Right, the dentist can't really give the bounce. Your doctor can't give the bounce. The retail store, the Amazon can't give the bounce. We have the power and so it takes me to we have the ability to be billionaires. And there's a new definition that I heard that I love. A billionaire is a person that positively impacts 1 billion people's lives. And so now directly, we may not come in contact with 1 billion people, but indirectly we do, right? And it goes back to my 9 o'clock, the hairdresser's 9 o'clock, 10:30, 12 o'clock. If she makes her day, she gives her the bounce, all the things we talked about. She's going to go and treat her client, her coworkers, her kids a little bit better. Right. That's how you positively impact 1 billion people. Right. And so we can all be billionaires.
Let's all be billionaires. I love that. Thank you, John, so much. How can people get more of you, find your books, all of the things? What's the best way for them to follow you?
TheDeJuliusGroup.com, TheDeJuliusGroup.com. It's all there. Yeah, and same John DiJulius on most social media, TikTok, all that platform. You can find me there.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.